Hello everyone, and now we've explored how to plan a 4-mark response for Section A, Paper 1 of the EDEXCEL English Literature A2. It's time to think about what a 4-mark answer should look like. So if you've not seen the previous video, I obviously ask you to go and look at that before proceeding with this one. So here's our question once more, which we've looked at in some detail previously, and let's look at our answer and how we do it. So you can see, again, as I said to you already, this is very much the style of essay you'll be used to throughout your academic life. An introduction which immediately creates your argument. You can immediately start to debate against, obviously, the critics that you've looked at. You can immediately start to include context in your answer. Your main body, you're going to have 3, 4, 5 different ideas which prove why you're right. Analysis of form, structure, and language, which proves why you're correct. Linking it to context. Debating with critical writers. That's what you need to make sure you're doing. Your conclusion, again, you can reaffirm which aspects you felt was the most important and why that is. You can also evaluate which critic you felt was closest to your argument and why that might be. And then, of course, we proofread our response at the end to make sure that we've achieved 4 marks. Because you should know whether your work is 4 marks or not. And obviously, if it isn't and you've got time, that's when you go back to amend it. There is no doubt that Shakespeare presents love in Othello as something which is not only clearly patriarchal but unequal and dishonest. These latest ideas fly against the notion of traditional Christocentric idea of marriage. As highlighted above, Shakespeare clearly presents to his audience in the extract that love is something which is unfair. Whilst discussing the notion of adultery to Emilia, the character Desdemona remarks that no, by his heavenly light, she would not commit such a crime. This highlights the unfair nature of love, as even though the character has observed the traditional role of the servant female, she is still been cruelly treated by her spouse. Shakespeare reinforces this notion to the audience through the metaphor light, which represents purity and positivity, clearly connoting the innocence of Desdemona. The number of interrogative sentences used by the character Desdemona within the passage also highlights the lack of knowledge the character has in regards to the impure activity, which once again demonstrates the character's innocence, despite the accusations from her husband. Shakespeare's motif of the colour in reference to love is immediately used in a dishonest fashion by the character Iago, who claims that an old black ram is topping your white ewe. The traditional symbolic use of black in reference to all things sinister and evil for the Moor is juxtaposed to the white ewe, which not only reinforces the notion of innocence highlighted earlier, there's a Christocentric reference to the lamb in order to cruelly exaggerate the notion of corruption said to be taking place. Alternatively, a psychological reading of this is that the character Iago is jealous due to his love of the character Othello, and his jealousy, hamartia, rather than Othello's, is what instigates the nature of the plot. So you can see structure, form and language. I've started to use alternative interpretations here as well. Slightly more context. You're more than welcome to start to debate with actual critics, but that's obviously something you'll be doing throughout the course of your essay. Conclusion. Overall, the nature of love is seen as truly a pejorative one, with none of the characters in the play remaining unharmed by its nature. Even Cassio is left physically and in some way psychologically scarred by the events. However, it's clear from a feminist perspective that love is most harmful to the females of the patriarchal world in which the play is set. So you can see that's how I maintain my argument, making sure I'm also hitting the mark scheme as well. Again, might want to put in a little bit of context there to support that, but I feel like I'll be doing that throughout my essay. So, thank you very much. Well done, and let's move on to section B, shall we?